No one is coming to save you. And deep down, you already know that. You've known it for years. You've felt it in the quiet moments. In the middle of the night when distractions run out and it's just you alone with your thoughts and the weight of everything you haven't done presses down on your chest like something's sitting on you, you felt it this morning. When you woke up and thought, not today, tomorrow. You've been saying tomorrow for how long? A year, 5 years, 10? This video is not going to make you feel better. It's going to make you feel something worse and more useful. It's going to make you feel the truth. And if you can sit with that, if you can resist the urge to click away, to scroll, to numb yourself again, something in you might actually change today. But that's your call. It always has been. Let's talk about the story you've been telling yourself. The beautiful, comfortable, carefully constructed lie you've built your entire identity around. You're waiting. That's the story. You're waiting for the right moment, for the right job, the right relationship, the right circumstances, the right version of yourself to finally show up and take the wheel. You have a vision of who you could be. You see it clearly. Someone disciplined, someone purposeful, someone who gets up early and doesn't apologize for wanting more. Someone who stopped making excuses and started making moves. You can picture that person. You just aren't them yet. And you've decided quietly, without ever saying it out loud, that you'll become them when the time is right, when things settle down, when stress is lower, when you have more money, more time, more energy, more support, when motivation finally hits you like lightning and you just know this is the moment, this is when everything changes. That's the fantasy. And you have been living inside it for years. Here's the thing about waiting for motivation. Motivation is not a force that arrives from outside you. It is not a switch that flips. It is not a feeling that comes and rescues you from inertia. Motivation, as most people experience it, is a feeling of readiness, a momentary alignment between desire and energy. And it's real. It exists, but it is temporary. It is unstable. It is completely unreliable as a foundation for building a life. And yet you have placed your entire future on top of it. You have said, I will act when I feel ready. Think about what that actually means. It means that the most important decisions in your life, what you build, who you become, what you leave behind, those decisions are being made by your mood, not by your values, not by your vision, not by your discipline, by how you feel on a Tuesday morning. That is not a strategy. That is surrender dressed up as patience. And then there's the other version, the right moment illusion. You tell yourself, the timing isn't right yet. Let me ask you something. When exactly is the right moment? When has the timing ever been perfect? For anyone, every person who ever built something real did it in chaos, in uncertainty, in the middle of personal crisis, in the middle of financial pressure, in the middle of grief and doubt and fear. Nobody woke up one day and found every condition aligned, every obstacle removed, every doubt silenced and said, now I'll finally go after what I want. That moment does not exist. The moment is now. It has always been now. And the more you wait for a better one, the more you train yourself to be someone who waits. There's another part of this illusion that nobody talks about. The help you're expecting, not just emotional support, something deeper. A lot of people are unconsciously waiting for someone to see them, to look at them and say, I see how hard this has been for you. I see how much you're struggling. I see your potential, and I'm going to invest in you, guide you, lift you, carry some of this weight. You want someone to recognize the version of you that's trapped inside and pull it out. A mentor, a partner, a parent who finally gets it, a friend who holds you accountable, a coach who unlocks you. You're waiting for permission. You're waiting for someone to believe in you loudly enough that you finally believe in yourself. And until that person shows up, you stay exactly where you are because it's not your fault, right? You'd move if you had the right support. We're going to come back to that. Now we get into the part that's going to be uncomfortable because this is where most people stop watching. This is where the ego defends itself. We're going to talk about blame, not as a concept, as a lifestyle. Because for a lot of people, blame isn't something they do occasionally. It is the architecture of their entire inner life. The operating system running underneath every thought, every decision, every explanation of why their life looks the way it does. Let's start with parents. And I want to be careful here because this is real. The wounds from childhood are real. The damage that comes from neglect, from emotional unavailability, from abuse, from chaos. All of it is real, and none of it was your fault. As a child, you were powerless as a child. You didn't choose your environment. You didn't choose your parents. You didn't choose the wounds you received. That is true. But at some point, and this is the part people refuse to hear, at some point you became an adult and the wounds are still yours to heal. That's not fair. I know it's not fair. You didn't create the damage. You shouldn't have to fix it. But here's the alternative. Spend the rest of your life waiting for the people who hurt you to come back and make it right. Spend the rest of your life defined by what was done to you before you had any power. Hand the pen to someone who is never coming back and let them keep writing your story. Is that what you want? Because that's what blame does. It feels like justice. It feels like truth. It feels like you're finally naming what happened. But functionally, in terms of how your life actually unfolds, blame locks you in place. It makes your healing contingent on someone else's remorse. And most of the time, that remorse never comes. So you wait and you suffer and the years go by. Then there's the circumstances. I grew up poor. I grew up in the wrong neighborhood. I didn't have the connections. I didn't have the education. I didn't have the opportunities that other people had. And again, true, all of it potentially true. Inequality is real. Systemic disadvantage is real. Starting behind is real. But I want you to think about what you do with that truth. Because there are two things you can do. You can use it as an explanation, a temporary one to understand how you got here so you can figure out how to move forward anyway. Or you can use it as an identity. You can wrap yourself in it so tightly that it becomes the core story of who you are. That everything you haven't achieved, everything you're afraid to try, everything you gave up on it, all goes in one pile. And that pile gets labeled, not my fault. The circumstances made you this way. The circumstances kept you here. The circumstances will determine where you end up. And if that's true, then you're done. There's nothing left to do but accept it. But you don't actually believe that. You're here watching this, which means somewhere inside you, there's a voice that says, it doesn't have to be this way. That voice is right. But you can't listen to it and hide behind your circumstances at the same time. You have to choose. And then there's time. The most popular excuse of all, I don't have time. You have the same 24 hours as everyone else. Every person who ever built something extraordinary had competing demands, had family, had jobs they didn't want, had exhaustion, had obligations that pressed from every direction. They didn't have extra hours that you don't have. They made different decisions about the hours they did have. You have time to scroll. You have time to watch. You have time to consume. You have time to sit in discomfort without moving through it. That's not time you don't have. That's time you're spending on something other than what you say matters to you. And that's a choice. Every day is a series of choices. Most of them invisible, most of them habitual, most of them unconscious, but they're still choices. And the collection of those choices over months and years is your life. Here's the deepest layer. Underneath the blame, underneath the excuses about parents and circumstances and time, there's something that most people will never admit out loud. Fear, not of failure. That's the surface version. Fear of trying, really trying, and discovering that it still wasn't enough. Because if you never fully try, you can always say, I could have done it if I'd really gone for it. That's a safe story. It keeps the dream alive. It keeps your ego intact. But the moment you go all in, the moment you show up every day, do the work, refuse every excuse, and give everything you have, you find out who you really are. And that is terrifying. So you protect yourself by not trying. And you call it bad timing. You call it lack of support. You call it the system. But it's fear. And the first honest thing you can do, maybe the most important thing, is call it that. Nobody cares. I don't mean that cruelly. I mean it structurally. The world is not organized around your growth. The people around you are not lying awake thinking about your potential. No one is losing sleep over the fact that you haven't become who you could be. They have their own problems, their own fears, their own unlived potential to avoid. The idea that someone is waiting to recognize you, waiting to invest in you, waiting to pull the best version of you out of hiding that idea is a beautiful lie, and it is ruining your life because it turns you into someone who performs suffering instead of doing work. Tells the story of how hard things have been instead of changing what happens next. Waits for acknowledgement that never comes. Let's talk about the people who love you. Your family, your friends, the people who actually care about you, they want you to be okay. They want you to be comfortable. They want you to not be in pain, not to struggle, not to suffer. And that's beautiful. And it's useless because what you need is not to be comfortable. What you need is to be challenged. And the people who love you most are the least equipped to challenge you because their investment in your happiness makes it nearly impossible for them to demand more from you. They'll listen to your excuses and nod. They'll validate your reasons for not moving. They'll say you're being too hard on yourself. It's okay. Give yourself grace. And none of that is going to change your life. No one is coming to fix it. Not a mentor who appears at exactly the right moment with exactly the right wisdom. Not a relationship that finally makes you feel whole enough to move. Not a windfall that removes the financial pressure. Not a sign from the universe that this is the right path. Not a version of yourself that arrives, already formed, already disciplined, already free from fear. None of those things are coming. And the life you want, the one you've been imagining, the one you've been waiting to be ready for, that life is being built right now, or it's not. And every day that passes is a day of building or a day of deterioration. There is no neutral, there is no pause. Time is moving. Whether you are or not, you are responsible. I know how much you hate that sentence. I know the part of your brain that immediately starts generating reasons why it's not that simple, why there are factors outside your control, why you need to be more compassionate with yourself, why responsibility isn't the same as blame. All that might be true, and it doesn't change this. The only person who can move your life forward is you, not because the world is fair, not because you had equal opportunities, not because the obstacles were equal, but because you are the only one in your body, in your mind, with your specific life, and nobody else can live it for you. Waiting for someone else to fix what is yours to fix is like waiting for someone else to sleep for you when you're tired. It doesn't work. It can't work. And somewhere inside you, you've known that for a long time. Here's what taking responsibility doesn't mean. It doesn't mean pretending the hard things weren't hard. It doesn't mean erasing the damage that was done to you. It doesn't mean you should have been stronger, smarter, more resilient at a time when you had none of those resources. It means from this moment forward, the story continues with you as the author, not as the character that things happen to, as the person who decides what happens next. That is a radical shift. Most people never make it. Most people spend their entire lives in the passive voice. Things happened to me. Life didn't go my way. I was let down. I was overlooked. I was dealt a bad hand. All passive, all happening to them, all outside their control. And then they wonder why they feel powerless, because they've handed power to everything and everyone except themselves. I want you to do something uncomfortable. I want you to imagine your life 5 years from now, not the version you're hoping for, the version you're currently building with your current habits, your current level of action, your current relationship with discomfort. If nothing changes today, if you wake up tomorrow exactly the same way you woke up today, where are you in 5 years? Same job, same weight, same relationship patterns, same internal monologue about all the things you're going to do when the time is right. Sit with that for a second, because most people refuse to run that projection honestly. They think about the future in terms of what they hope will happen. Some external shift, some lucky break, some intervention, and they block out the image of what will actually happen if they keep doing exactly what they're doing. Let's talk about regret. Not the word, the feeling, the specific texture of lying in a hospital bed at 80 or 70 or 50, however many years you get, and looking backward and seeing the years when you were capable, when the body worked, when the mind was sharp, when the opportunity was there, the energy was there, the time was there, and you spend it waiting, you spend it comfortable, you spend it managing your anxiety instead of walking through it, you spend it consuming other people's lives instead of building your own. That image, that specific grief is available to you right now, not as punishment, as information, as a compass. The pain of regret projected forward is one of the most powerful forces available to a human being. And almost nobody uses it. Instead, they use it backwards. They feel it after the fact, when the years are already gone. Don't wait for the after. Use it now. The average life, That phrase probably makes you bristle. Good, because most people are living one. Not because they're stupid or weak or broken, because the average life is seductive, it's comfortable, it has social approval, it fits into the template. Nobody questions it, nobody challenges it, and you can spend decades inside it without ever confronting the gap between who you are and who you could have been. The average life says, get a stable job, have weekends, retire someday, watch the seasons change, stay safe. And there is nothing wrong with any of those things in isolation. But when they become the ceiling, when comfort becomes the highest aspiration, something essential in you starts to die slowly, quietly, not with a dramatic crash, just a gradual dimming. The ambition turns into vague nostalgia. The goals turn into daydreams you revisit occasionally, like old photographs. You stop expecting the extraordinary from yourself and you adjust. And the saddest part, you get good at it. You get very good at convincing yourself that this is fine, that this is enough, that wanting more is arrogant or naive or irresponsible. You build a whole philosophy around settling and you call it wisdom. Think about the version of you that exists somewhere, not in fantasy, in genuine possibility. The version who did the thing, started the business, built the body, repaired the relationship, wrote the book, had the hard conversation, faced the fear, showed up when it was hard. That version isn't a different person. Same history, same wounds, same starting point, just different choices, just a different response to the discomfort. And every day you don't make those choices, that version gets further away. Not impossible, but further. The gap between who you are and who you could be doesn't stay the same size. It grows. And at some point, not dramatically, not with a clear warning, it becomes the defining fact of your life. The thing you lived around instead of through. There's a specific kind of pain that people carry for years and never name. It's not sadness, exactly. Not depression. It's the pain of knowing you're capable of more. Knowing you're not living up to it. Knowing that the excuses are excuses. Knowing that the story you tell other people doesn't quite match the one you tell yourself at 3 a.m. That knowing lives in your chest like something unresolved. And you've learned to carry it. You've learned to function with it, to work around it, to periodically drown it out. But you can't make it go away. Because the only thing that makes it go away is doing something about it. Not feeling better about it, not reframing it, doing something about it. I need you to stop for a second, not metaphorically. Actually, stop. Stop whatever else your mind is doing. Stop preparing your counter arguments. Stop deciding whether you agree with me. Just be here for a minute, because I'm going to say something and I need you to actually feel it instead of just hearing it. You are not the problem. Let me say it again. You are not the problem. The version of you that developed these patterns, the waiting, the blaming, the hiding, that version was doing its best. When you learned to wait for help, it was because at some point you needed help and waiting was the only option you had. When you learned to blame the circumstances, it was because the circumstances really did shape you, and naming that felt like the only control available. When you learned to protect yourself by not fully trying, it was because you'd been hurt by trying, and your mind was doing what minds do, keeping you safe from more pain. Those strategies made sense once. They just don't work anymore. This is the part that breaks people open. Not the anger, not the shame of looking at your excuses honestly, but this, the recognition that you have been surviving all this time that looked like laziness or fear or avoidance. You were surviving. You built an entire system to protect yourself from a pain that felt unsurvivable. And it worked. You're here. You survived it, which means the protection isn't needed in the same way anymore. You can let it down now. Not because the world is suddenly safe, but because you are stronger than the version of you that needed all those walls. But here's the confrontation, and I'm not going to soften it. You have been using your survival as an excuse to stop living. The wounds were real. The protection was necessary. And now you are using the wounds as a permanent exemption from the hard work of becoming someone new. You are saying, look what happened to me, and using it as a reason to never look at what you're capable of. And that is the deepest betrayal you can commit against yourself. Not because you owe anyone anything, But because inside you, underneath the survival strategies, underneath the protection, underneath the fear, there is something that wants to live, not just exist, live. And every day you spend hiding is a day that thing spins in a box. I want you to think about a moment, maybe recent, maybe years ago, when you stood at the edge of something, a decision, an action, a step forward, and you felt it, the pull, the possibility. And then you step back and you told yourself a story about why now wasn't the right time. Can you feel that moment? Not the story. The moment just before the story, that moment of standing at the edge is not a memory, it's a pattern. And you are standing at that edge right now. This video is that edge. The decision you're about to make, to close it and go back to normal, or to sit with what this stirred up and let it mean something, that's the edge. And you've been here before. So let's be completely honest. Not with me, with yourself. What are you actually afraid of? Not the surface fear, not the practical concern, the real one. The one you've never said out loud or barely said or only admitted in the middle of the night when there was no one to perform for. Say it, even if only in your head right now. Is it that you'll try and fail? Is it that you'll succeed and still not feel like enough? Is it that changing means admitting that the years you spent not changing were wasted? Is it that the people around you won't recognize the new version and you'll end up alone in a way that's worse than the loneliness you're already in? Whatever it is, name it. Because the unnamed fear is the one that controls you forever. The named one you can work with. Now I'm going to tell you what comes next. Not a 5-step plan, not a morning routine, not a list of habits. A different way of being in your own life, starting with one thing, ownership, not blame, not shame, not a punishing internal critic that calls you worthless every time you fall short. Ownership, the clean, clear acknowledgement, this is mine to do, not I should have done it already. Not I'm terrible for not having done it, just this is mine, I'm doing it. That's it. That's the shift. It doesn't feel like much, but it is everything. Because ownership changes the relationship between you and your life from spectator to participant. It puts you back in the driver's seat, not with certainty, not without fear, with responsibility. Discipline is not what most people think it is. People think discipline is a character trait, something you either have or you don't. Some people are wired for it, others aren't. That's wrong. Discipline is a practice. It is the repeated decision to act according to your values instead of according to your mood. That's all it is. And it is built the same way every other skill is built, through repetition, through failure, through showing up imperfectly and showing up again. You don't become disciplined by wanting it. You become disciplined by doing the next small thing even when you don't want to. Not perfectly, not impressively, just doing it. Choosing the action over the comfort again and again and again until the action becomes the path of least resistance, until doing the hard thing is easier than living with the alternative. Here's what that actually looks like. Not the highlight reel version, the real version. It looks like waking up when you said you would, feeling terrible, and getting up anyway. It looks like starting the project before you feel ready, producing something imperfect and continuing. It looks like having the conversation you've been avoiding, not knowing how it will go, and having it. It looks like making one better decision today than you made yesterday, not a transformation. Not a breakthrough, a decision, and then another one, and then another one. And really understand that the accumulation of those small decisions over months and years is what a life is made of. Not the dramatic moments, not the revelations, the ordinary choices made deliberately in the direction of who you want to be. The people who seem extraordinary are not exceptional human beings. They are ordinary people who made a decision about how they were going to respond to difficulty. Not once, every day. The decision looks like this. I will not outsource my life to my circumstances. I will not wait for conditions to be perfect. I will not require that I feel ready before I move. I will move anyway. I will be afraid and move. I will be tired and move. I will be uncertain and move. I will fail and move. And in the moving, not in the achieving, in the moving, I will build someone I can respect. Let's talk about what you're actually going to do. Not someday, today. After this video ends, you're going to have a window, a narrow one, maybe 30 minutes, maybe an hour, a window where this is still alive in you, where the discomfort hasn't faded back into comfort, where the truth is still close enough to touch. And in that window, you have a choice. You can wait for the feeling to settle into something actionable, which means you'll wait until it's gone. Or you can do one thing, not the whole plan. One thing, the email you've been not writing, the conversation you've been not having, the run you've been not going on, the work you've been not starting. One thing, concrete, specific, today. Not as a symbol, as the first actual brick in the actual structure of the life you say you want. You do not need to feel ready. You do not need to feel confident. You do not need to have it figured out. You need to move. And the movement, however small, however imperfect, will generate something that waiting never could. Evidence. Evidence that you are someone who acts. And that evidence changes everything. Because the story you tell yourself about who you are is not fixed. It is being written right now. Every action is a vote. Every avoidance is a vote. The accumulation of those votes over time is your identity. Start voting differently. No one is coming. Let that land. Not as despair, as liberation. If no one is coming, then the waiting is over. If no one is coming, then the story that kept you frozen has no ending worth waiting for. If no one is coming, then it's just you. And whatever you decide to do with the time that's left, the version of you that looks back on this moment years from now, that version is not fixed yet. You're building it right now. Not with inspiration, with the next decision, and the one after that, and the one after that. That's the whole thing. That's all it ever was. Nobody is coming. It's you or nothing.